Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on understanding the revenue potential of an association app. We've got a large audience today, so we want to give everybody a chance to join. We'll get started in just a few minutes, so just sit tight, please. Good afternoon again, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on understanding the revenue potential of an association app. My name is Edward Wenling, and I'll be your moderator for today. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items to go over. All attendees for today's webinar are muted so we can have a smooth presentation, but we will be taking questions at the end. Asking questions is very easy. On the right hand of your screen, you should see the GoToWebinar navigation pane. Near the bottom of this pane is a question section where you can post your questions at any time during the webinar. At the end of the presentation, we'll go through as many questions as we can. If you have any technical difficulties during the presentation, please also use the question section and we will try to address them as they come up. We're also delighted to let you know that we are an approved ASAE certified association executive provider. This webinar is worth 1 credit that can be applied towards your CAE application or renewal. To learn more about ASAE's CAE program, just visit asaecenter.org/CAE. So now it's my pleasure to introduce today's presenter, Billy Barnes, Director of Sales with Clowder. Billy, the floor is all yours.
Thank you for the setup, Edward. Appreciate it. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for all of you for taking some time out of your day to participate. It's going to be a very short and to the point webinar. We're going to have a lot of time at the end for questions. I really look forward to that, so please do feel free to ask your questions. This topic has generated a lot of buzz and a lot of excitement among both our prospects and our clientele. Understandably, given the shared circumstances many associations are facing right now, the first of which being, a little bit of financial loss when it comes to the cancellation of lost events or the transition to virtual. And secondly, and more broadly, just an overall increased reliance on digital tools for communicating with your members and engaging with your members that we're all trying to deal with and face during this COVID era. So today we're going to focus on the revenue generating potential of an association app. Without further ado, to help understand that, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page about what is an association app. What do I mean by that? And I understand it's a little self-explanatory in the title, but it's really not a concept that's been mainstreamed in the association market until the last few years, 2 or 3 years. Event-specific apps, on the other hand, are very common and very prevalent and have served the association community very well for many years. But an association app is a little bit of a different approach. It's a more comprehensive mobile strategy, really a one-stop shop, central hub for your members to access all of their membership benefits in one place by leveraging the convenience and the access of a mobile app. Now, any true, complete association app will, of course, include event modules. And an event module and event features to help support events, which are a very important part of the association, whether it's in person or virtual. But the benefit of having it all under the same roof is that the engagement and the revenue driving opportunities need not die at the conclusion of the event, when the event app is most likely going to be deleted. And all of the features can build off of one another. And so really what you're looking at with an association app is a tangible tool that allows you to cut through the noise. It's a member benefit right in your members' hands. And when you couple that with the massive broader market shift that we're all experiencing from traditional reliance on web and email-based platforms over to the total dominant grip that mobile seems to have on our society, it's the perfect tool for meeting your members where they operate their lives already, which is their smartphones. And I already mentioned the increased reliance on digital communication tools in the COVID era, but now you have a foundation from which you can launch a number of modern engagement initiatives and revenue driving opportunities that this webinar is going to focus on. So right off the bat, I'm going to take a look at some of the app strategies as it relates to adding new members and also retaining members. A very popular strategy with an association app is to leverage members-only content. So for example, you might elect to allow non-members to access your app so that they can use it for an event or a virtual event, but perhaps some member exclusive or premium features are actually suppressed in that app, like the directory or the resource center that only full paying members have access to. So if you're a non-member or a student member, for example, instead of having access to the same content that members, full paying members have, you might instead see a little teaser, a carrot and a stick about how you can learn more about joining the association, and you can actually create and join the association directly through the app. So we make that very easy for you. We have a couple anecdotal stories from our clients here at Clouder that have said we've had members renew their dues right on the spot at an event just so that they could have unfettered access to the mobile app. The other one is just making the member renewal process as easy and as streamlined as possible, and taking advantage of the ease of mobile and allowing your members to do that with one or two taps of their finger in the smartphone environment. That becomes really powerful when you couple that with timely push notification reminders. So you might send out a push notification 30 days before your members' renewal are up. And then you might send another one 15 days before, and then maybe a last chance when their membership renewals are 5 days past due. So it's a refreshing feeling to be less reliant on email as your only tool for getting your members' attention to renew their dues. And then thirdly, and more broadly, an association app just represents a new modern member benefit that your members have tangible access to in their hands. That is a frequent reminder of the value that your association is extending to that member, which is very important. We all know how important member retention is given the circumstances that associations are facing right now. And an association app is a great way to remind your members that you're extending value directly to them. All of these strategies are effective because of the convenience that mobile allows for us. And think about your daily life and how other brands that use mobile, your bank, your grocery, the Starbucks app, how all of those have tangibly increased, your efficiency and your convenience in your life. So to that end, it's highly advisable to include your key association resources in your app. An example here, if you're a member of ASAE, is that they pulled in their Collaborate community so that you can get to your Collaborate communities from the app with just one tap. Another popular example is a job board. And then thirdly, this organization, ABCA, pulled in their online video library. This is a big revenue generator for this specific client. And so when they pulled it into the app, made it more accessible, made it more convenient, they saw a 25% jump in traffic to this revenue generating resource from the app. So really what you're doing in this scenario is you're taking advantage of where the attention is, where the eyeballs are, which is mobile, and using it as an on-ramp to all of your existing member resources, where they're direct revenue drivers or indirect just through retention and engagement. I want to focus a little bit more on the Career Center aspect, because this is one of the most popular association tools that our clientele in particular pulls into their app. What you're looking at here is a web scribble job board. They're really the premier association job board provider. And you're seeing a screenshot of their job board being actually pulled into the Clouder app to give it more, highly valuable real estate, increasing the access, increasing the convenience to that. And by doing so, you're increasing your non-dues revenue through job posting, upsells, and by coupling it with push notifications, you've got a great opportunity to attract attention to new job alerts, resume update opportunities, and all of that good stuff. I'm going to take a pause and shift gears here a little bit to what is going to make up the bulk of the remainder of the presentation, which is a focus on mobile advertising and sponsorship. I just talked about it at the beginning, but everybody here has likely experienced some revenue loss from COVID-19, and innovative associations are looking for ways to recoup that lost revenue and drive new non-dues revenue streams. An association app can actually provide a great medium through which to transition your existing sponsors from your events over to a new platform that sort of fits with the digital world we're living in. And that's kind of a good segue to discuss a quick snapshot of the advertising world when you compare digital versus traditional. So I'm sure everybody's aware of just a broader shift from less reliance on traditional advertising like trade shows, print, radio, television, etc., over to the dominant grip mobile has. And some statistics here, almost 2/3 of digital ad spend in 2019 was on mobile, and it's just growing, with the share reaching 68% in 2020. So digital, we all know, has significant advantages over traditional, namely the ease of access, the ability to target highly specific audiences, as well as the analytics and the tracking capability that you have with digital advertising that allows you to really deliver improved value to sponsors. It just fits in. Digital transformation is probably the buzziest of the buzzwords, and I know that we have all heard some talking head on some news channel in the last 6 months say, if your digital transformation was supposed to be, a 3-month process or 3-year process, COVID-19 came along and said it's now got to be a 3-month process. And so that's what, an association app can help make you that transition. And, I talk to prospects all the time, and I ask them a question. If you went to your sponsor of a traditional in-person event and said, I'm unfortunately unable to allow you to sponsor the lanyard for your badge at our annual event in Las Vegas, but what I can do instead is I can give you a rotating banner ad in our association app. I can even let you have an advertorial post in the news feed. I'm going to be able to tell you how many people looked at it, how many impressions it got. My suspicion is that they would jump at that opportunity, and that's really how you can start thinking about how to transition some of that lost sponsorship revenue and recoup it. I want to touch on one point that we talk about a lot, and that's really the difference between a mobile app versus mobile responsive web. So we get asked a lot, do I really need a dedicated mobile app when I have a mobile responsive website and I can just drop or add an advertisement on my mobile responsive web? And I say mobile responsive is absolutely a requirement in today's day and age as we round the corner on 2021. If your website is not mobile responsive, it likely should be. And the data is overwhelmingly pointing towards a higher response and higher engagement rate in a mobile app environment as opposed to a mobile website. So just looking at the click-through rate on advertisements on a mobile app, you see that it's exponentially higher in a mobile app environment than it is in a mobile web. And this is largely due to just where the majority of time is spent. So of all digital time spent on mobile, 90% of that time is spent in an app environment, where a mobile responsive web is lagging behind and at around 10% and continues to see that share decline as mobile apps become more and more popular. Sort of an everyday example that we can use to highlight that is if you were going to order a coffee from Starbucks, you're not going to go to www.starbucks.com on your mobile browser. They won't even let you, frankly. you're going to go to the mobile app that Starbucks has created. Therefore, if Starbucks was going to advertise their seasonal pumpkin spice latte, they're going to place that advertisement in their mobile app, not on their mobile web. Speaking of big publicly traded corporations, in my opinion, there's no better example of the potential of mobile than by looking at Facebook. So if you look at that stat there in the top right corner, 94% of Facebook's advertising revenue comes from mobile. This is sort of a drop the mic stat. In my opinion, one of the biggest businesses in the world gets 94% of its revenue from mobile. Facebook didn't even have a mobile app until 5 or 6 years ago, when it was a web-only platform. Another myth that Facebook helps us dispel is that older demographics, they don't use mobile. They won't use mobile. In fact, the fastest growing contingent demographic on Facebook is those 65 years and older. So you don't run the risk of alienating those members. And for those younger members, you're meeting them where they're already operating their lives. And then finally, during the height of the pandemic, when I actually heard a number of fair assumptions that, well, when everybody's going remote, they'll be less reliant on mobile and more focused on their desktop. During the month of April of 2020, in the height of the pandemic, 78% of Facebook users worldwide solely accessed Facebook via their phone. That's another massive statistic. And I think, if I look inward and I think, did I use my smartphone more or less during the quarantine era? Whether I like it or not, the reality is I used it a lot more. Even though I was home, I still use my smartphone a lot more because that's how I stay connected to all my various tools. And one last point on Facebook, because I know many of you may be wondering, really what's the correlation between Facebook and my association? And it's a valid question. What I would point out is that Facebook's entire value generation, the reason that they are successful is because of their ability to offer sponsors an extremely targeted audience, or a highly targeted audience, or a subset of audience. When I think about that and how it relates to an association, I think, well, that association is that audience. That is the highly specific, highly targeted audience. And then you could, of course, break sub-audiences within. But you have an unprecedented opportunity because of that, but also because you are the voice of your industry. People look to you for insight and thought, and you have the opportunity to essentially become the Facebook of your industry if you have the right platforms in place. And when we're talking to prospects, we always ask them that question. Like, if you had the opportunity to install and be the Facebook of your industry, would you do it? And almost all the time, they answer that to the positive. Facebook is a good transition into one of my favorite methods of sponsorship, which is sponsored content. So the sponsored content has become pervasive throughout the market. Your sponsors' marketing teams are always producing content, and then they're looking for channels through which to disseminate their content. So you can find a way to tap into these dollars and by including your app in that offering, by arranging a multi-dimensional sponsorship package that includes advertorial posts. This concept of sponsored content, it's effective because it's thoughtful, because it's engaging, and because it's personalized. And you see all 72% of companies say that sponsored content marketing works for them, and almost 80% plan to use it in their marketing. And what's really allowed for the proliferation of sponsored content is the social app platforms, the social media platforms that allow you to target this highly relevant content to very specific targeted audiences. And so the point is that your year-round association app provides that same kind of targeted and dedicated environment that popular social media app offers, that makes them the perfect real estate for this type of content. And we often refer to an association app as a private social network. In addition to just sponsored content, you can drop in sponsored polls, which are particularly valuable to sponsors because they allow your sponsors to essentially use your membership as as a highly targeted focus group. In addition to sponsored polls, you have push notifications as well. I talk a lot about push notifications and that they are really probably the most valuable component of mobile in general. When you look into your toolbox and you've got a tool other than sending another email to your members, you're in a good position, because email, the efficacy of email has declined over the years, as we all know, as it's just become overrun and open rates continue to decline. Push notifications are a refreshing change of pace, and they can be leveraged very effectively to call attention to your various sponsored content offerings. In addition to sponsored content, sponsoring other modules like a forum allow your sponsors to participate in specific conversations or associate their names with highly specific and highly contextual conversations. Same thing with a resource center. Allow your sponsors to be placed on a highly relevant resource to them. And of course, any association app should allow you to leverage the use of banner and display ads. Essentially an ad manager on the back end, so you can drop in, Instagram-esque or LinkedIn-esque ads throughout your association app. And of course, those can be targeted. So you don't have to run a broad ad. You don't have to run an ad for everybody. You can run an ad just to maybe your young leaders, or maybe one segment of your membership that this ad is particularly relevant for. And then a growing trend that we are seeing across our clientele, at least, is the idea of a title sponsor, someone who sponsors and underwrites the entire app. This can be seen as sort of the premium sponsor designation, so that every time a member opens up this app, they're going to see that company's logo. So hopefully what you're beginning to see is there's a variety of options that will allow you to compile really, really compelling sponsorship packages. And it's not one dimensional, it's very multi-dimensional, and how you can position it and leverage it that works the best for your particular association. But all of this real estate that we're showing you, is only possible when you have that true year-round association app, and it provides a plethora of opportunities to package it the way that it works for your organization. And of course, much of this value of digital and mobile is rooted in its ability to track and monitor those analytics. Increasingly in today's day and age, sponsors want to see an ROI on their investment, and this gives you the opportunity to deliver that to them. As dollars get tighter, sponsors are going to want to allocate money to where they see their money working for them. And you have the opportunity to track this. This is one of the huge advantages that digital has over traditional, and frankly, one of the huge advantages that mobile has, even amongst the wide array of digital advertising opportunities, because mobile ads are typically more engaging. They can be clicked on, they can be tapped, they can sponsored content can be liked, it can be shared. There are lots of different engagement methods and engagement analytics you can track on mobile that just aren't available on your typical banner ad on a website. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit to talk about a few association apps that I've been inspired by and I think are very successful. And in full disclosure, these are Clouder clients that have agreed to be highlighted here. But they've just done a fantastic job in leveraging their app to not only drive increased engagement and member benefits, but truly drive revenue. So this organization in particular is the American Baseball Coaches Association. They have a wide variety of key assets. They have a podcast, they have a video library, they have coaching resources. By including that in their association app, I mentioned earlier, they saw a nice jump in traffic and jump in the popularity of those assets and of those platforms. And when that happens, naturally opportunities for sponsorship pop up too. So if you look on this screenshot here, you'll see at the top right, sponsored by Team Builder, sponsored by Pocket Radar. These are not highly intrusive advertisements. These are advertorial posts or resources that are sponsored by these organizations. That allows them to be highly targeted and highly relevant and in the right context. And when it comes to metrics, when you can look at a sponsor and say, yeah, we saw a 25% jump to our video library that you're the sponsor of, that's an easy sell and helps you create a sustainable revenue stream. And it certainly would not be a COVID era webinar without a quick conversation about virtual event advertising sponsorship. So I want to talk to you about one of our clients. This is a user group client. This is ASI. They power IMIS, the AMS. Many of you guys listening may either be familiar or actually use this, but they use the Clatter app to keep their constituents engaged, whether it's clients, whether it's partners, product updates, support, help, and just general user group engagement. They had an app with us, and lo and behold, in their annual conference in March, 2 weeks prior, they had to shift it entirely to virtual. And they were able to use the framework of their association app to not only help support the event, but also to give a place to allow a place for the content to continue to live, the session information, the videos, and it didn't have to die right after, because again, this is a year-round association app. Nobody was deleting this directly after the event. And so you'll see just from a little over 400 attendees, you'll see the analytics they got from their 3-day event. Over 60,000 news post impressions, thousands of messages back and forth. And most importantly, it was successful, and they decided that, in fact, it was so successful that they were prompted to have 3 more virtual events that year with the same format. But as it relates to sponsorship, I thought what they did was really, really cool, which of course they had the sponsor analytics, but they also exported it in a format that actually stacked up all of their sponsors and the banner impressions that they got and put it on a table with other vendors, other sponsors, some of which are competitors, some of which are complementary products, but either or, it's a fantastic visual. And if you're one of these sponsors and you're going back to your board saying, I want to sponsor this again, it's an easy sell when you have this and these type of analytics right at your disposal. And quick sidebar, another cool thing I think they did, and it reminded me, what reminded me of it is the screenshot there on the right. They used a product called Gather Voices, where they had all of their sponsors record 20 or 30-second video of themselves, a quick pitch, just how they're doing, how they're helping the market, how they're helping the clients, and they were actually able to have that show up in the app during the event and onwards. I just think that's an incredibly valuable proposition to offer a sponsor. I go back to my lanyard example. Would you rather sponsor the lanyard on the badge, or would you rather have an opportunity to pitch your product and talk about your organization and have that video dropped right into the association app where people can look at it, they can share it, you'll get analytics on it, they can like it, comment, and really engage with it. By the way, we do have a virtual event playbook featuring ASI that can be found on our website, in our website resource center, or www.clatter.com/COVID-19. And then lastly, when it comes to client examples, I mentioned the full title sponsor, and I just want to show you a live example. This organization has their entire app underwritten and sponsored by Verizon. I think it's going on their 3rd year of having this sponsorship arrangement. So clearly, it's proven its value to both the association and the sponsor. It certainly doesn't preclude, having a title sponsor doesn't preclude other sponsorship packages. You could have, you could say you could be the title sponsor. You could also have a rotating banner ad, and maybe I'll give you an advertorial sponsored content post once a month. But certainly the title sponsor should be looked at as the premium, primo sponsorship designation that we see becoming more and more popular. We have a lot more where this came from. If you're interested, everybody who has signed up and registered for this webinar will be receiving our sponsorship guide, which goes into more detail about the overall, some of the specific things that I talked about today. It's a pretty good guide. I encourage you guys to check it out, take it to heart. If you're interested in learning more about sponsorship or an association app or just mobile in general, we have a great resource library on our website. Stuff about COVID-19, mobile guides. How does mobile help you attract millennial members? How does mobile help you, combat, canceled event revenue? And then we have a nice blog with some mobile insights and mobile best practices. We do have a demo app, which I'd encourage you all to download. I know, many of you aren't ready for a sales call or don't want to talk to sales right away. That's okay. Please go check out our demo app, play around with it yourself. You'll see a bunch of banner ads populating throughout and really get a good idea for what it could look like for your organization. If you're not sure if mobile makes sense for your organization, we totally get it. It's different for everybody. Timing is different for everybody. We encourage you to take our mobile readiness assessment to see if some of the priorities that you guys have on your vision plan can be augmented or can be helped by mobile. And then lastly, because I mentioned the web scribble integration, it's a really popular tool to pull in. If you have any interest in learning about web scribble, please reach out to Travis at webscribble.com. And then lastly, if you want to talk to us or myself, please feel free to reach out to me directly, billy@clouder.com, or download the demo app and shoot me a message, which I'm pretty responsive on. Edward, I think I will turn it back over to you now to see if we had any questions.
Okay, great. We do have a few questions, and before we get to them, I just want to remind everybody, if you have any questions, asking is easy. On the right-hand side of your screen, you should see the GoToWebinar navigation pane. Just find the questions section and shoot your questions over. So first question I have for you, Billy, is how do we work around older members who don't use mobile?
That's a great question, one that we get asked quite frequently. And I think it's just a common misconception. I mean, I can understand why everybody would think that. As we saw with the Facebook demographics, it's sort of disproven that older members won't use mobile. They may not be as inclined to use mobile as your 32-year-old or your 28-year-old, but they will. And in fact, one of our most recent apps that we launched is actually TRTA, the Texas Retired Teachers Association. So that just by nature, those association members are older, but their membership director had a very astute point throughout the process that yes, our members are older, but they're getting younger every year. And you saw that in the Facebook demographics. Another interesting comment from one of our clients that, when we asked them about, are any of your older members accessing it? They kind of dryly said, so what if they do? It's a member benefit that's there for them to use, in conjunction with all of our other resources, in conjunction with email and web. If they choose to use it, that's great, but we certainly don't feel like we're alienating them if it's, not their preferred medium.
Okay, next question I got for you is, can you use the app with an LMS?
Good question. So just in very similar fashion to what you would do with the job board or any other one of your resources, you would pull in the LMS and maybe give it a prime real estate button at the bottom of your navigation screen. And what you'd be doing there is more of just a web view. You'd be opening the LMS interface inside of the framework of the app. So you never leave the app, but you can access the LMS in that fashion.
Next question. What do you typically see across your clients with app downloads? I think that's a question maybe about, how many members download the app?
Sure, I love this question, and almost without fail, we get it on our demos. The answer is that there is no one answer. It varies so broadly based on so many factors. How many of your members do you have on your email list? How many of them even open an email? How many of them go to your event. So it first takes a little inward reflection, and our client success team works with you on this. What's a mutual definition of success that we can aspire to for your organization? And it varies. We have associations that have 80% adoption, and they're like, come on, guys, why can't we get to 100? What are you guys doing wrong? What are we doing wrong? And then we have some associations with 25% adoption, and they're just through the roof that they got 25% of their membership to do something, and take an action and engage like that. So it really varies depending on the organization.
Next question is, what would an app like this cost?
Good question. I can only speak for Clouder in particular. We have our pricing available on our website. Our pricing starts at $14.95 a month. And the key benefits of our pricing model is that it's all inclusive. There's no implementation fee. There's no service fee. You have a dedicated client success manager to really ensure you're getting an ROI from your app. And it's an all-inclusive SaaS model.
And looks like the last question. So just one last call. If you've got a question, please get it in on the GoToWebinar navigation pane in the question section. The question is, do you integrate with Aptify?
We do, yes. We do integrate with Aptify. If you saw the ASAE screenshots there, or a member of ASAE, when you log into that app, you're using your existing credentials, and ASAE uses Aptify. So we are integrated there. And we integrate with all major AMS providers across the board: Fontiva, IMIS, your membership, regardless, we do.
Okay, that looks like it's it. Let me just do last call for questions. Going once, twice, 3 times. I think that's it. So thanks, Billy. Thank you, everybody, for joining. You will receive a follow-up email originated from GoToWebinar that will include a copy of the presentation as a recording, so that you can access that. Billy, any final comments you want to make before I close it out?
Just want to say thank you guys for joining. Hang in there with the COVID era challenges. We're here to support you, and enjoy the fast approaching holiday season, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.